Welcome to Everyday Entrepreneurs Everywhere with your host, Chris Parker.
And we are back with Everyday Entrepreneurs Everywhere. And this is Chris Parker. And my guest right now he's known as Nacho. His name is Ignacio Garcia, and he's in Mexico. I am so much looking forward to this because he is a deeply experienced, as he describes, lifelong learner and also teacher and educator, entrepreneur, business person. Really looking forward to what we discover during this conversation. So, Nacho, can you share with us, as our kickoff question, what do you do and why do you do what you do?
Okay. Yes. First of all, thank you for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here with you and share some thoughts, some short stories about my life. I'm doing now consultancy. In some way, teaching, I call educated consultancy because I don't like companies or people who hire me to depend on me, and they have to learn the methodologies and build their own methodologies with the theory, with the sharing, with the facilitating I'm doing. Why I'm doing this? Because in the past I was a manufacturer. I was in the business of in the shoe business, manufacturing shoes.
Wow!
Because I'm very fond of designing. Despite I'm an engineer, actually engineering is a way of designing, but chemical engineering is nothing to do with the shoe designing. So, well, it was very interesting how I became a shoe manufacturer. I'm doing this because somehow I realize education is so important in our lives to achieve our own goals. And beside that, I also realized the way we manage companies is so complicated, and it has to do everything with education. When a company hires a young person, just after finished college, they're expecting to add value to the company, but the reality is they had to spend at least one more year in training these people who are coming to college. And I said, something is wrong with college stuff. College is so theoretical. I spent almost 5 years of my life attending college under a lot of pressure, not just in the way of accomplish a task or learning, also an economical way. And I said, in those almost 5 years, I would build my own company, but I went to university. After that, I started working just 1 year in one shoe company. But nothing I learned in university, it was useful for me for working that. So that was my second question. So probably the college or the university of the future has to match the skills to serve to the business, to the companies, to the industry. And well, that's why I'm walking in this path. I would like to share some story about my personal life.
Please.
And that explains totally what I'm thinking like this. When I was a kid I'm the oldest one of 11 and 12 siblings in a very poor family, in a very poor neighborhood. And every day life was drugs, fights, and some very low quality of life. And when I was 5 or 6 years old, I said, I don't want this kind of life. So what should I do? I don't know. And when I started going to the primary school, I couldn't learn anything from my teachers because I was Asperger, but I didn't know until I was around 20 years old. But I was under Asperger syndrome, and I couldn't pay attention for more than 10 minutes. So that was a problem in my learning. But besides that, I had to keep going to the school. I don't want to fail in the exams, in the evaluation. So I start to build my own way or methodology to learn by myself. So I became a self-help guy, self-help person. And it was the whole story in my academic life. I couldn't pay attention for more than 10 or 5 minutes to the professor. So my life is researching, learning by myself, asking questions, but mainly doing things, prototyping. And I didn't know it was a methodology. After 20 or 25 years, I found that the design thinking was that methodology. So in my way of thinking, the way the people learn is doing things, experimenting things all the time. And that's what I'm doing this now. I don't want to get people bored with the long speech, with the long talking of theory. And I'm very good on building challenges. And when I was trying to do something for go out of that life, my childhood, I realized the way out of that situation was education. And I started, of course, I went to the formal education because it was the idea they told me. If you get a diploma, you're going to have a better life. And I really believe that. But that's what I was talking about, that it wasn't true, totally true. But the one thing is really true. If you had a lot of knowledge in your brain, you can build something valuable in the future. But you have to make it real. You have to bring it to life. And prototyping. I was very good on doing things with my hands. And I wanted to after high school, I wanted to become an aeronautic engineer. But in Mexico, in that time, I'm talking about the end of the 70s, the only school of aeronautics was in Politécnico in Mexico City. But they need me to have a high school in math and physics.
Yeah.
I was having a high school diploma in literature and humanities. So they didn't accept it. I was really mad. And I asked some people, what is the best school, the best university in Mexico? Because I was really mad. And they told me Tecnológico de Monterrey. And I applied for a scholarship to Tecnológico de Monterrey because I was really have a huge challenge. And once I was in front of the desk of admissions in Tecnológico, I asked the girl, what is the toughest career here in Tecnológico? And they told me chemical engineer or mechanical engineer. That's really tough, and people is trying to don't get into that, and unless you're very, very sure just your ability, or unless you really want to do that. And okay, I want to sign for that career, and that's why I became chemical engineer. But indeed, I wasn't a designer. Since I was a kid, I was all the time building things because we cannot have we were not able to afford nice toys, so I had to build my own toys. And that was after that. That's what I sometimes said. Have spending almost 5 years in a very beautiful and one of the biggest university in Mexico. Private. It was wonderful. It was a good experience for my life. I met good friends, but I didn't build the tools for my own company, not even for get hired in some other company. I just worked for 2 years for a company, a shoe company, of course, because my experience was there, but I was a chemical engineer with a minor in industrial engineer, and they never gave me a post as an engineer. I was a driver. I was in the line manufacturing because I was really good at doing that. And I said, okay. Once I want to share this story because it's very interesting. In that shoe manufacturing company, they were specialized in women's shoes, very fancy women's shoes. And they had a Spanish designer, and I saw how he was doing the designs. And I really fell in love with that activity. And I said, hey, can you teach me to do that? And I was a chemical engineer working for a big company, a big shoe manufacturer. And he said, no. I spent a lot of years trying to learn this. Why should I teach you in just a few minutes? And it was really getting me mad. And I was following, trying by myself, trying to copy what she was doing. And it was so difficult, but it was a lot of, I was having a lot of fun doing that. At the end, the company asked for a big collection for a big show of shoes, and he wanted for my help. And that's what I learned to learn. And he has to teach me the most important things, not all of that, but he taught me how to get the patterns and get I was very, very good on drawing since I was a kid. So that wasn't a problem. Drawing designs, it was very easy for me. But the technical part was important. And that's why I decided to become a shoe designer. And after a couple of collections I built, I asked for a post as a shoe designer. And they said, oh, you're crazy. You're an engineer. We're not going to give you that position. I said, okay. So it's a matter of credibility. And that's why I decided to build my own company. And I started my own company, designing my own collection. And my first worker, my first employee was my father, because my father was having a lot of problems getting a job. And he was quitting all the time. But he was very good in shoe manufacturing, shoemaking. I learned to manufacture shoes since I was 8 years old. I started working at the age of 8 years because my father couldn't buy me clothes, notebooks, everything I need for the school. So I decided to go to school in the morning and work as a shoemaker in the afternoon. So I was very familiar with that kind of business.
Yeah, I understand.
But the main problem came after. When I decided to become an entrepreneur making shoes, suddenly, well, you need money. I was in my pocket only 300 pesos, around very few dollars, not even $100. And well, but in the time I work with the friends I make, many companies, supplier companies for the shoe industry, trust me and gave me raw materials by credit. And that's where I started my first collection. But you see, one experience is not enough. You have the passion for doing something, and you have the decision, and most of the time you have the necessity to do the things. The most important thing in build business is learn how to sell your products.
Yes.
First time I was after a big customer, a shoes distributor and retailing, and I didn't have anything, only my collection. It was 6 samples, six styles, 6 models, and I asked for somebody to lend me a suitcase, a
Mhm.
seller's suitcase, very fancy. Because I wanted to give a good impression to that
Mhm.
customer, important customer, and they lent me a very nice suitcase, but it had a lock with combination. And they gave me the combination in a piece of paper. And I put all my samples inside. And I was very happy because finally that big customer gave me an appointment. Once I was there, I was so nervous because selling is not one of my strengths. I'm really scared about selling. It's very difficult part. At the end, when you know very well your product, when your products are your child, your son, you can sell at the end. That's my own experience. But I was so scared. And once I went to the office waiting, I didn't know I lost that piece of paper.
Mhm.
So just in front of him, I couldn't open my suitcase. I couldn't sell anything. And he said, okay, that happens sometimes. Go and find your combination, your key, and come back later on. He never gave me an appointment anymore.
Mm.
And that was a very sad experience. And probably I wouldn't have that willing to do this, to start this kind of company, a shoe company. I just dropped everything and go to find something else. But I went to to keep trying to find different customers. And one experience, and I read many years ago in the books, is when you're building your company, you don't need to have a big company. You just need to have a good idea in your prototypes. And my first sale, I was having my samples, the same samples.
Mhm.
And this time I didn't use a suitcase. I used this a shoe box.
Yeah.
So they gave me an order, and I didn't have anything to send that order, to deliver the order.
Mhm.
I don't have any worker, only my father, but he was just doing one part of the process. And I didn't have any machinery, any tools, just one place. It was the garden, my parents' garden. I became a small warehouse,
Mhm.
and I transformed in, and I killed all the plants, all the fruits, and that my father's love. Well, at the end, I spent 6 months in deliver that order because I was finding my friends to do process this part and process this other part. I had nothing, but that was the first experience. And I said, when I delivered the shoes finally after 6 months, and they were expecting in 30 days or 45 days. And when I delivered after 6 months, I said, I didn't remember I gave this order for you.
Oh no.
And yeah, but they accepted
Okay.
because the guy saw me. I was so eager to see my shoes in the store. And that was the beginning. So my learning in that time is there are different factors that you can become an entrepreneur. You have the passion, you have the necessity,
Mm-hmm.
and after that, you're willing to deal with all those kind of things, issues and failings.
And what year was that roughly?
I started my first company in 1984.
Okay, and you read a book around 1984 which said make a prototype only and sell from the prototype, which I think is genius. And apparently from 1984 till now, we've forgotten it as an entrepreneurial society. Because how many people build their whole product and their whole system before they sell anything? So I think that is a beautiful lesson you learned very early on. So yeah. And then what happened from there? I'm very eager to hear the rest of the story.
Okay, well, after that starting, I hired my father. I had one of my brothers and 3 or 4 people who were workers in the shoe industry. And after 1.5 years, I was having more than 100 employees in my company. So I started growing very fast because I knew the process. I was a designer. And one thing I'm really proud of is because every collection I built, it was very good for the market. And
how did you do that? If you were designing, were you just doing it out of your own intuition, or were you watching other?
That's a very interesting question, because I was applying design thinking at that time.
Yeah,
in the early 80s.
The word didn't exist.
Yeah. I went to Monterrey from León, because I'm from León. I'm living in León right now. I went to Monterrey to show stores, to talk with people, and to see what people is wearing in streets. So I found what kind of styles and what kind of price and quality I had to do to get to be successful on selling. And I came back and built a new collection according to that knowledge I gathered from that trips, that business trips. And that's what I'm sorry. Okay. And that's what I all the time was very successful on my collection and my product. And I was overselling all the time. My problem all the time was to increase the production. And that's what I failed. Because it was a matter of leadership. I wanted to do everything just to make sure everything is fine. I designed, I purchased the raw materials, and I organized the production. The only thing I didn't do was to manage, because I'm not good on managing. That's what later I went to make my MBA, because I was really good. I wasn't really good on managing, but eventually you had to manage that. And then so I wanted to be a leader in that industry.
I have a question for you, Nacho. Did you learn how to manage at the MBA?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
No. It was a very disappointing MBA.
Yeah.
It was 18 months MBA in University of Phoenix, and I made on 11 months. And I was struggling with the professors, fighting with them and challenging them, because they were talking about something that they got from the book.
Yep.
And in reality, it's totally different. So in my experience...
Did you go physically to a University of Phoenix location, or was it?
Far. Yeah.
Okay. Where did you go? Where was the campus?
Yeah, in Phoenix.
In University of Phoenix. Okay.
University of Phoenix. Yes.
Okay.
And some realizing that I just wanted to finish that thing, the MBA, and I started making some subjects online, and just I showed the process, and I got my diploma, and I said there must be something more in education, and I went to pursue my PhD to Canada. It was totally failing, but good thing in Canada I knew I had the first contact with design thinking. From a book from Roger Martin called Design of Business, and really got me. And I just dropped everything in Canada. I didn't finish anything. I just started to do some couple of programs, and I came back to Mexico. But after a long time to be a shoe manufacturer, I just decided to become a consultant, because I realized that there's a good opportunity on selling education, but not selling in the theoretical way. selling in the practical way.
Yeah.
And that's
So,
why it was very easy for me to do that.
Nacho, I also, and the way we got connected is through a colleague and friend of mine, Simon Broad, who is part of the Think School of Creative Leadership. And you attended the Think School as well. Was that a different type of education for you?
Yeah, that's totally different. In the way of methodologies, the state of art of innovation or entrepreneurship is good, but I was learning that all the time. And
Mm-hmm.
but the good thing is from that school, I think it's probably it's that way in the future of the university. The higher education future is a similar model, I think, because the best part is they just don't deliver knowledge; they develop the individual. The coaching, the business coaching is very good, and also the personal coaching is also good. But it's very important when you have a coach that has no experience in the field you're trying to get in. And business, for example, my coach, Ellie, was really, really good because she was in 5 different countries working with high and very good companies. So they really can guide you and guide you in the process of growing personal. So that was the best part of thing.
So we just have a few more minutes left, but one question is: you have your own consulting company now, designthinking.mx in Mexico. Tell me more about that. That's your consulting work you're doing now. What is your mission there? What is it you're doing for people and organizations through design thinking, your company in Mexico?
Okay, that's also a very important question. When I was having my own company, I hired some friends from my childhood, and those friends, well, I'm not gonna tell the long story, the short story. Now, some of those friends who saw me to build a shoe company, they said, if he can, we can too. So they became entrepreneurs, and now they have their own company. So now I'm on a mission to help this kind of people in the poor neighborhoods, people who has not the opportunity to go to the university, which is good because they're going to spend 5 years of their life and they're going to lose good opportunities in real life. And I want to teach to be entrepreneurs, to become entrepreneurs to those people who really had the courage to take that challenge. In the past, in the last few months, I was just focusing on big companies because they pay very well, but they don't apply what you're trying to help them. They never put in practice, and I realize it's a problem of leadership. Sometimes the CEO or the owner came and just shut down all the projects because he's in a bad mood and he wants to put everyone to sell. And that's not a good leadership for pursuing innovation and pursuing to growing. So now I think I'm more productive and my mission could be more novel, focus on this.
Lovely. And earlier when we were speaking, before we started recording, you mentioned that you were dissatisfied with the state of management and the state of education. And we have certainly spoken about education and your vision there. How can you, and this is the last question for me before we wrap up, how can you explain what you believe is perfect or appropriate or best management? What does the best manager do? Well,
that's a difficult question, but very important because We have been talking a lot about the more flat structures, holacracy, all that kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is most of the companies are military. There's a boss, there's a sub-boss, and sub, and sub, and sub, and all the legs. But for me, is to educate people who are working for a company as to be independent. As the company has to be a self-help company. And the company has to build the ability to learn very fast, to be able to adapt. And that's not just educate the CEO or the owner or the managers, had to educate it in a leadership model to the whole company. So it's gonna take time, but the clue is to educate people to be more autonomous and responsible and engaged with the purpose of the company. So it's a long story. Of course, for me, education is very important. It's a clue to fill the gap of the inequality and a lot of things. But beside that, I am a father of a 8-year-old girl with this in the spectrum of autism. And that's why my project in Think was a social project, trying to build an educated model for kids with autism. So I'm in the mission in help my kid, and also help a lot of kids that had that disorder, the neurological disorder. So education must be my love at the last day of my life.
Beautiful.
I'm very happy to do this.
And how are you helping educate children on the autism spectrum?
You see, that's a very ironical thing, because kids with this kind of disorder, they learn doing things. They learn learning by doing.
Yeah.
And my kid is very good on handling, and she's all the time building things with this kind of stuff, plastic and Play-Doh, and building blocks, but the most difficult part for the kids with autism is the social interaction. And the only way to learn how to interact with other people is to be with other people, not to isolate them. That's why I don't bring my kid to a special school, because they are all the same.
Yep.
And the same disorder. So I had my own teachers. I'm training my own teachers to teach my kid and to bring with other kids. She's not attending right now because we have this problem of the coronavirus. She's not going to the school, but she's missing going to see other kids there. So that's a good sign.
Yeah, nice.
And everything is learning by doing. So I don't know exactly how, but I need to build a business model that can bring these kids and bring the typical kids, and to build a new kind of school for this. But so what the typical kids are gonna gain? They're gonna be a better leaders in the future, because they can accept this kind of persons, and they're gonna include everyone in their future life.
Well,
So that's my mission.
And I think that's an absolutely gorgeous mission. I'm no expert on it, but what I have heard recently from someone, that individuals with autism are more and more highly sought after for testing, for systems testing, because they are so good at detail, at repetitive activities of seeing patterns, and apparently people can really find a meaningful place to participate in an organization in software testing. So, have you ever heard of that before, or? Yeah,
of course. And I can imagine in my kid my kid's future, she can work prototyping, building new products, solving some problems, because she's very good in solving problems. She's not high talented in try to code a new system of that. I know a lot of kids are able to do that, but my daughter, her ability is to build things, to construct, and you said right. She is very good on observing details and try to replay and especially solving problems, because she's very independent. If she's hungry, she just go and try to cook something, and she's only 8. Of course, she made a mess in the kitchen, but well, that's it.
I think she's taking after her father a little bit.
Yeah, that's right.
Outstanding. I have enjoyed listening to your story and learning from you and hearing your perspectives. I really appreciate the time. If people, I suppose, particularly around Mexico, or even abroad, I imagine you can help people from a distance develop that self-learning, self-adapting organization, then designthinking.mx is Nacho's company. I'll put the company link in the show notes, and as well as you can find him at Ignacio Garcia on LinkedIn. I'll put that link as well in the show notes. And so I'd really celebrate if people reach out to you and share thinking and learn and discover from each other. So Nacho, thank you so much for joining. It's been an absolute pleasure.
It's an honor. Chris, thank you for inviting me. And give me an opportunity to share something.
Learn more at ebillion.com/podcast.